working on a couple of batches of Chardonnay here in the small parcel area of the winery. Every year I like to do a fair bit of experimentation to work out, to develop new techniques and new methods for making wine. This year I've taken some Chardonnay, and it's the same fruit from the same vineyard, but I've made it in two quite different ways. One parcel I made using wild yeast. So this is the natural yeast that exists in the vineyard, living on the grapes. So the grapes are crushed and then fermentation, or crushed and pressed, and then fermentation starts naturally. The other parcel was made in a more conventional way using conventional yeast, where the juice has yeast added to it and starts its fermentation that way. And about halfway through the fermentation, the wines were transferred into these barrels so they could maintain their individuality or their integrity of the trial. And now I'm keeping them in barrel and treating them exactly the same way, just to see the differences of the yeast. So the conventional one smells really fruity and lifted, lots of peachy fruit. Glass juggling. And the wild yeast, it smells more funky and more interesting, a lot more complex. There's more layers of sort of tobacco leaf. It's a little more smoky. And funnily enough, the oak flavour seems a bit more prominent in this one. Now, the palate. That's incredible. Beautiful texture, lovely creaminess and richness. That's with the wild yeast. And with the conventional, a bit more upfront fruit hitting the front of the palate, whereas that wild yeast was more at the back of the palate, and a little bit more linear across the palate rather than that rich texture. Really interesting that having just that slight difference in yeast can produce a really different result. So doing these small micro batch trials gives me the confidence to then apply it on a whole range of wines in the whole winemaking process for whites and reds moving forward.